All right, back at the Young Turks, Cenk, Anna, and Ida Rodriguez with you guys. There's so many important topics we got to discuss. As usual, I got to give you the updates first. At this point, almost none of them are good. Ohio's in the same place we left it before the break, 5 points up for Trump with 3/4 of the vote. In North Carolina, Biden still holds a 0.6 lead with 84% reporting. But again, New York Times says no, Trump's gonna win that 95% chance. They still have Georgia at 83% chance for Trump. So given how the rest of this night has gone, Georgia, I can't imagine why Georgia would be less certain for Trump than North Carolina. I guess anything is possible, but you pretty much consider Georgia gone. I'm gonna do the math for you guys on the Electoral College, but remember, Trump has to win all these states that he is winning, then he has to win Pennsylvania. So it looks like for the moment being, the 3 biggest states left that are relevant, if we think Trump has won Florida, North Carolina, and Georgia, are Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Arizona. So those are the 3 biggies on the board. There's still one district in Maine and 1 district in Nebraska that's relevant. We're gonna have Kara Eastman on from that district a little bit later. And it's amazing that we're at this point. And so it looks like the establishment Democrats, even in having an election this close, have blown it again. So we got to get right back on that warpath. And look, I'll break it down for you guys later as to why it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't about the warpath. That political dynamic is so important, and unfortunately, it's been a thing we cannot solve. If you go on a warpath, the rest of the media says, that's it, you're all blacked out. I'm never gonna put any of you on because you're not civil. If you don't go on the warpath, these losers keep bungling it to fascists like Donald Trump.
Yep.
So you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Who's at fault? The mainstream media is at fault.
And also the Democratic Party, Cenk. The Democratic Party cheerleads the corporate Democrats. They pretend like they'd be the most effective. Look, what Biden has done in this election is very similar to what we've seen in other failed congressional races for Democrats. He decided to run as Republican light, right? And the reason why he did that is because you got to look at who is assisting him materially with his campaign. And so you have this infusion of never Trump Republicans, tiny minuscule percentage of the country, right? Negligible amount of voters. And they're pumping money into his campaign. You got the ads from the Lincoln Project. So who is Biden gonna listen to? Is he gonna listen to the donors, the people who are helping him materially? Or is he gonna listen to what progressives have been screaming from the rooftops? Focus on the bread and butter issues. He didn't do that. He didn't. He did a little bit on the margins, but his whole message was, I'm the unity guy. I want Republicans in my cabinet. Okay, but why would Republican voters unite and stand behind you when they can have Trump, who speaks to them on a number of issues, including some of the identity stuff that they're obsessed with? It's just, it was a dumb strategy, and I just knew, I felt it in my gut that this was not gonna be a blowout for Biden. If anything, if he wins, it's gonna be a super close race, but I don't know. I mean, I'm a little too much of a pessimist, so I'm gonna stop right there. I don't wanna get people down based on my own pessimism, but I don't think that Biden ran a great campaign.
Yeah, well, that's now super obvious. But look, guys, it's the media. It's definitely the media, because is it the Democratic Party's fault? Of course. But when you say something as obvious as the problem is Democratic weakness, every one of you watching out there, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican, Democrat, or somewhere in the middle, you all know that that's obviously true. The Republicans come in 100 miles per hour and they shift the conversation to nonsense, irrelevant factors, but they move the debate and they fight for their side, and Trump's got everybody excited, etc. Our side never gets their own guys excited. They never fight for us. They never fight for us. They're pathetically weak. But if you say that, the media bans you. The rest of the media bans you. They will not allow that kind of talk anywhere on cable news. The New York Times hates it. The only people who hate it more is NPR. So a lot of you probably grew up listening to NPR. Honestly, they're poison. And let me explain why they're poison. Not because they have fake news, that's nonsense, right? We're not right wingers. Do they have real news? Yes. Do they have facts? Yes. Do they shade it in favor of corporate Democrats? Absolutely. But more important than that, they taught generations of Democrats to whisper. And if you don't whisper, you're being uncivil. And guys, you progressives, you wouldn't want to be uncivil because then you might win an election or two. We should be crushing Trump right now. The fact that it's close is unconscionable. Ida, I'm going to go to you on 3 separate super important things. But first, I got to tell the audience, look guys, this is all we have, okay? You think ABC right now or CNN is talking about unconscionable Democratic weakness? That they never punched Trump in the face? Oh, I'm gonna bring John Kasich in and I'm gonna bring Republicans in and we're gonna play patty cakes. Here, it's so easy, it's so easy. Here's what you could have done. Hey, we're the worst in cases, worst in deaths. First to worst, first to worst. Donald Trump brought us from first to worst, first to worst, first to worst, first to worst. And then that would force Donald Trump to say, no, per capita, we're actually 9th worst out of over 200 countries. That's how you win a debate, by going for the jugular, not going, oh golly gee, this guy, he's running over me. No, you run over him. But if you do that, you will be banned definitely from NPR, definitely from the New York Times, and almost certainly from CNN, and definitely from MSNBC. So look, I'm saying this as you know, I'm getting worked up, right? So, but look guys, we do have each other. And online, we're larger than all those guys, okay? And soon, I hope, with your help, we'll be larger than all of them, no matter what, online or TV. So right now, we're handing them their ass on Facebook and other social media. They're going with their soft ass BS, like, oh, we're gonna come in here and be super soft and read like robots. We're coming in on fire because for God's sake, we wanna win. And we wanna bring help to the American people. So if you can't step up and help, on YouTube, you just hit the join button below. Everything matters, everything makes a difference. If you're watching anywhere else, tyt.com/join. And yes, help us in the fundraising, tyt.com/go, because every dollar we have is strength and power to progressives. And as you can tell from the Young Turks, from 18 years and from right now, we're not going to be afraid to use that power. We get enough power in the media, and I'm gonna steamroll these sons of bitches. I'm gonna steamroll them. I'm not talking about Republicans. First, the corporate Democrats are up because they suck at this. And they're the ones that prevent us from beating Republicans. Then we're gonna slaughter the Republicans politically. But they gotta get out of the way. Both Jake Tapper and Nancy Pelosi and all those, and every editor at the New York Times has to get out of our way. Let us hit the Republicans in the face instead of playing patty cakes with them. How many elections are we gonna get to a razor's edge with a monster idiot fascist like Donald Trump? One last thing, I swear to God I'm gonna go to Ida, but one last thing on this, guys. Forget him being a racist, forget him being a fascist. The guy's IQ is lower than 70. He's an idiot. He's a total moron, and you couldn't figure out how to crush him in an election? Man, the corporate Democrats and the mainstream media suck at this. They absolutely, positively suck, and they brainwash smart people into compliance. Well, that's not what we do at the Young Turks. If you're into compliance, don't watch us. If you're into, let's go fight these guys and win, then you're with us. Let's go fight them all and win. Ida, what in the world happened in Florida? What in the world happened with Latino voters? And they told us, hey, don't pick Bernie Sanders, otherwise they'll call him a socialist. They called Biden a socialist anyway, and it looks like it totally worked, didn't it?
Yeah, they call me a socialist. So listen, that was all day long today. You know, first of all, I agree with you. I think we need all hands on deck, and we need the proverbial hands and the physical hands. So I feel the passion that you feel, and I am so angry. And I'm not embarrassed to be angry, and they can do as many videos as they want about me being angry and call it a meltdown all they want, because I actually give a damn about people in this country that show up every day, go to work, who don't have millions of followers on Instagram and Twitter and don't have time for that because they got to survive. But I agree with you. The civility that they have pushed on us that they don't even abide by. The savages, the barbaric practices towards people in this country, and I'm not just talking about people of color and Black people, because that's a whole other level, but just poor people, working class people, struggling people, the lack of empathy that has been employed on the people of this country, and we just sit there and take it because we want to make sure that we appear a certain way, and it doesn't matter because when you do that, they call you smug anyway. Now, what's happening with Latin people, Latinos, Latinx, we showed up, but this whole socialism talking point that is really, really used to push the emotional buttons of people from like Cuba and Venezuela, because we are talking about universal health care, we're talking about education, which I don't even get, I don't understand. Anna and I have had this conversation over and over again, how you could feel appalled and nervous about somebody trying to give you what you're struggling to have that keeps you in debt and on the bottom. It is the greatest mind trick of all time that they have put on our people. So yes, we showed up in numbers now, 3 times more than the last election, but many people showed up to support Trump because let's just say, keep it real. A lot of people of color hate themselves. They want to identify with upward mobility, and to them, that means white is right. And if you're going to give me the talking points about the economy and bringing back the jobs and all whatever it is, we know simply that is not accurate. So a lot of Latinx people showed up, and I will say Latinos because the Latinx people are the progressive thinkers that are voting the right way. But the Latinos, they showed up because they wanted to uphold white supremacy. They wanted to uphold the status quo because it makes them feel comfortable because they've been told that if we have universal health care and education in this country accessible to everybody without them having to go into debt, that we are going to turn into Cuba and Venezuela. And it's still amazing how America demonizes all these countries and their political processes when they are responsible so much for destabilizing these countries and causing this chaos in their countries, and then we'll say, oh, we don't want to be them. But we never, ever admit the part that we play in what happens in those countries.
Yeah, so I want to talk about Kamala Harris. I want to talk about other parts of this strategy that they have completely and utterly bungled when we come back. But I got a very important update for you guys that I got to tell you about. So now these numbers, nothing is held tonight. So take it with a giant grain of salt, take it with a boulder of salt. But Arizona is now reporting 75% in, and Biden has a 9-point lead. I mean, we've been here before. We saw this movie before. We saw it in Ohio. We saw it in Pennsylvania. We've seen it in Florida. But 75% reporting in a normal election would be gigantic. And a 9-point lead is gigantic. Is it gonna hold? No one has any idea. And so let me give you one other thing before we go that is important in that context. The reason why I was so confident in the beginning of the night and for the last 2 weeks, as I've now said several times tonight, Trump has to sweep the swing states basically, right? So if Biden can just do the bare minimum of holding Minnesota, which shouldn't even be in play in any way, shape, or form, Michigan and Wisconsin, where he's supposed to have gigantic double-digit leads, just hold those guys. You could actually lose Ohio and Pennsylvania if you win Arizona and you win the Nebraska 2nd district and the Maine 2nd district, which are, again, they're supposed to win those. Biden still wins. He still wins losing Ohio and Pennsylvania in that scenario. It's almost an unlosable election, but the Democrats are this close to losing it. The join button's below. Everybody go to tyt.com/go because the mainstream media isn't gonna help us. We need to help ourselves. You give us power, we punch them in the face. Young Turk.